You've got a wargaming event coming up in a couple of weeks. What do? Do you do the sensible thing and take an army out of your cupboard? Or do you do the stupid thing and think, you know what I'll do? I'll start an absolutely brand new army that I've never played and know nothing about, and we'll take that to the event, and you've got like 2 weeks to do it. And it's only evenings you've got, and maybe the occasional day on a weekend. I've done that, so I'll see you after this. So guys, yes, this video wasn't intended. As you can tell, I'm at home. I said over Christmas I'm going to bring home the 3D printer, the Sonic Mini 8K. I'm going to learn to get the most out of it, and I'm going to document that so I can show you my processes so you can learn to get the most out of your 3D printers no matter what printer you've got. The principles are the same, but I was just going to document it and show you in the best quality that I could so you could do that. What actually happened is I printed off a load of models and it got that little cog going inside the brain going, well, this would make a really nice army. So what did I do? I 3D printed and painted an army. I thought this would be a great video to discuss like speed painting, whether we actually need speed painting tools like special paints for it and things like that, and just show you my processes. And what got the cogs turning for this video and got me inspired to start my army with the sponsor of this video, and that's BlackCrag Miniatures. BlackCrag Miniatures offer one of the most affordable Patreons I've seen, offering nice models, okay? They're pre-supported, and their thing is they want the models to look as, the renders to look as good as a 3D print. They're not over detailed, so they're going to look great whether you print them on a 2K printer or a 4K printer, and with them being pre-supported, you just chuck them in, print them off, and they peel off the supports with ease. Definitely not water, it does the work for you. And I can confirm the models look as good as the renders do. They're awesome proxies for your fantasy and sci-fi needs. There's even undead models that they're bringing out as well. So if you like what you see, guys, check all the links below. They're offering awesome models that are affordable, and with vehicles and everything else coming out now for fantasy and sci-fi, get it while you can at this price, because if it's got to go up, it can't stay this cheap forever. But anyway, guys, links are below. Let's crack on with the video. So when I start a new army, I always start with the character models. Now there's multiple reasons for this. The first one is there's only one of them, sometimes two, but when you're painting characters, I sit and just paint one at a time. Because they're very different to the rest, it's not really muscle memory, you need to sit and paint it. So I'll just sit and paint them. I probably spent half hour, 45 minutes a model, and I paint them to a better standard because they're all based on single bases, so it's best just to paint them that little bit better. And the other reason is it's quite a big hurdle that you've already jumped over. You've got quite a large proportion of your army done, points-wise anyway, and you've finished it. You're not looking at a wall of models that are half finished at the end of the first day. You actually sat there just looking at your models and thinking, well, I've finished that. You've accomplished something, and that puts you in a good mindset for getting on with the rest of your models. Now, at the end of that day, what I normally do as well is I prime all the models and I base them all on lollipop sticks, all identical. So if I've got 2 of the same model or 3 of the same model, I make sure that they're all ranked up, so the next day we can paint all them properly. So the core of your army. Once you've got your characters and that out of the way and you're organised, ready for the next afternoon of painting, this is the bit that most people do a bit on and then leave and then very rarely come back to. The core is the most boring part of your army, not because of the models, just literally because of the sheer volume and amount you've got to do. I've got 26 stone trolls to paint, I've got 2 troll brutes, and I've got 2 giants which I'm using as troll gargantuan, so it fits the troll goblin theme. And now I sit through this and get it done. I'm at my highest point of motivation for doing this army, so I'll just make sure that I get all the base colours done that afternoon. I think it took me about 3.5 hours to do this. Now I did crack out the airbrush just to really get this done as quick as possible. And I just started by base coating with a really dark blue, I think it's black blue from Pro Acryl. And then once I've got all that base down, and I just methodically go through every model that's got blue in it. After that, I go to a paler blue and I repeat the process again. From that, it's then all the bellies. It's all to get a nice transition. Again, I'm using the airbrush just to drop on some creams and bone colours on the stomachs to get a nice graduation. Just building up them base coats as quick as you can. Now, I'm not great with an airbrush, and I'm using an airbrush with a 0.4 needle. I'm literally blasting paint on these for speed. So I have some of the shading's not as good as it could be and everything else. So how I sort of cheat it, shall I call it a cheat, I get some dark brown wash and I undershadow the models from underneath with the airbrush, and you can put your shadows back in, and because you're blowing wash on, you can make little mistakes and it's not that noticeable. And at the end of the day, they're all going to be stuck together on multi-trays, so it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but you get a very nice effect just from underspraying with the wash. And that's my kind of cheat shading that I do just to make things look a lot better airbrush than I've actually done. Then it's on to the brushwork. The brushwork feels like it takes a lot longer than it actually does. Brushwork for me, when I've actually timed myself in the past, I do a lot quicker than it actually feels. So it is quite a mental game, is doing your brush base coating. But again, just stick to doing the same part on every model and just do it across all of them in one go. If you've got brown on that brush, paint everything brown across everything. If you're doing your cream, get cream and go across everything. And just make sure you get everything at the end of that. Once it's done, you finish with fully base coated models. And then for dry brushing, to finish them off with highlighting, I'm not messing around. I'd use the tips that I've learnt from Byron, from Artist Opus. I just literally get the paint off on some cardboard. I keep the brush damp by using some water on a sponge so it doesn't look powdery when you dry brush, and I just highlight this up to a pale blue with a bit of ivory in it. And then once that's all dry brushed up and highlighted up nicely, I go back to that wash technique, my little trick that I did earlier, and that's just to add a little bit more shading where I feel it needs it, or if any of the sort of highlight is a bit too pale in areas, I can tone it down by just putting a slight wash glaze through the airbrush over the top, and it just sort of ties it all together. It's very, very quick. I got all these models finished in very little time, and this is the way that I love to just batch paint, because especially when you group all these together when we get to the basing part, they look great. And if you want to feel good about what you're doing and finishing it quick, this is how I do it, and give it a go. Give it a go. So at this point, once I've got that core done, I feel a bit drained usually because I've painted quite a lot of models in at one go, and the last thing I want to do is pick up a paintbrush and do the same again, because I've still got 10 squigs, flea bags, whatever you want to call them, like chaff units to do. I've got my big giants and things like that where I've got to do the final dry brushing and washing. I've got little bits of touch up to do across, and I've got like God knows how many little mushroom men that I've decided to use as base details. There's probably about 50 of them. So I've still got a bit of painting. So to break this up, I'm going to get the basing done. The basing bit is the bit that I really enjoy doing. So to get that creativity back, I jump back onto the bases and we get them done. All I've done is I've got some bark from our range, which are the 50 to 100mm size pieces. We are thinking about getting some bigger sizes, so if you are interested in bigger and smaller sizes, let me know in the comments below and we'll source that. It's ready to use out the bag for you. All right, guys, so all you're going to do is get it out and glue it on your bases. So that's what I've done. I've laid it all out, I've glued it down in place. Any bits that were overhanging that out because I didn't want it there, I just cut it off with a razor saw. To make up the landform, we're using a bit of modelling compound. Again, easy to use, goes off very quickly. It'll be dry in about half an hour. And then once that's all firmed up, we spray it with some black primer and then we dry brush the rocks. I take the step like I do with washing rocks. I don't use grey. I use a couple of browns. I use a green grey, which is more on the creamy grey look. And then I finish off with an ivory, which gives it that sort of nice realistic rock look without using black, grey, you know, what people usually do. And it just looks a bit more organic because you're using anything but grey to finish your rocks off. And I think that looks a lot nicer. Once that's done, I put some fallen rock space ready around the fronts of the rock faces just to show some fallen debris. And then for the entire coverage, we just chuck on some arid earth base ready over the lot. And then we seal all that in place with matte Scenic sealant. So while they're all left to dry through the day, overnight, I crack on with the rest of the army. This is things like the little magwans, which are like squigs, and the mushrooms. And as you'll see, I've saved everything that's the same colours. So when I load up the airbrush, I do all the red, and I go over it with two or three reds. And then once that's done, I then change over to the creams, and I then do all the creams on the base of the squigs, and then also onto the mushrooms as well. If I need to put any cream on my bigger models, I'll do that as well. And then I come back in with the dry brush and I repeat all the steps over everything and just do everything with the colours that I've got on my palette or in my airbrush, and I get that nailed off. And then it's just sticking the models on the base. I do wait for it to completely dry out. That's why I did it early on in the week. So then it was dry enough for me to stick them down. All the base reddys and everything were well secured on there. I super glue them on with a really thick super glue gel called Mitafast, and I use accelerant so it grabs it quick. And then I just stick my tufts on, just place them where I want them, and then all my cool little mushroom men. The reason that I do it in this way is because I don't want to put all the tufts on and then struggle to put my models where I want them. I do this so they get the best base to model contact with the super glue they can, and then I use tufts to hide any bits where the foot's lifted up a little bit or that it's not a perfect surface to put the model on, and I use the tufts to hide any errors. And when they're done, they look amazing. So I got finished around 3:30 in the morning. Finished painting the models about 2 o'clock, but I still had to build a box and fit them all in so I could transport them to the event safely. And the event was in Hull, City of Culture apparently. It's pretty grim where we was. And to top it off, red balloons everywhere, which creeped me out a bit. But it was at Humberside Wargaming Society. And when we go in there, we're a lovely little gaming club. We 8 tables, there were 12 players. So that were nice, and we had a good day's gaming. The first game I won, which was a really nice game. The second game I lost, but it was a close lose, as in we came quite good. But then the last game I absolutely got destroyed, completely tabled. I didn't remove any of their units. Worst game I've ever played in my life. This is the thing about taking an army that you've got no idea how it plays. I went up against an army with some shooting. I didn't have much and I got absolutely trounced. And it's been a while since I've played, so I wasn't really using it to its best ability. But absolutely enjoyed it and absolutely loved it. So guys, I've absolutely loved this project. The fact that I've got it finished is the main reason. Finishing an army is it just makes you feel great. And booking an event is the secret to speed painting. It makes you sit down, you get some hobby mojo, and you get it done. Speed painting is a state of mind. It's not a hobby product. It's not anything. It's about sitting down and actually doing it. As hobbyists, I'm sure a lot of us procrastinate more than we should. And when you book an event, it stops that. So much so, I'm going to a Lord of the Rings event. I've never played the game before, never painted a Lord of the Rings model, and in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to a Lord of the Rings event, and I'm doing exactly the same again. So I'm going to have 2 armies done in January, which is amazing. But anyway, guys, contrast paints, speed paints, Army Painter sent these out. I absolutely love them. It's not a diss to any of it. They're great tools, but for me, speed painting is just more about consistency than the paint I'm using. And if I can have a consistent paint, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to learn about a paint. I can just airbrush it, I can wash it, I can dry brush it, I can layer paint it, I can do however I want. And for me, Pro Acryl is my true speed painting paint. But contrasts are great, and speed paints are great for doing like difficult details like furs and things like that when you can't be bothered dry brushing, just slop it on and it's done. Speed painting is more of a state of mind than an actual hobby product. What do you think? Put in the comments below. But anyway, guys, if you want to support me, don't forget to check out your local shops first. But you can buy all your Geekgaming Scenics from all around the world in your local shops and also on our website. Thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you for the next video, which some good things are happening this year, and you'll notice soon. I'll catch you in a bit.